Hi, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining us for our first in a series of interviews with senior women in the technology and data space. We're so thrilled to have you here. As for myself, I am Charlotte. I run Women at Tria Recruitment, which is our diversity-focused employee resource group. And I'm so excited to be kicking this off. Now, Rachel, thank you so much for being our first guest. How are you doing?
Really good, and thank you so much for having me, Charlotte. It's a pleasure to help, and I'm really happy to help in any way to increase diversity in the world of data and technology.
Amazing. Now, for anyone who doesn't know Rachel, she is very much a recognized thought leader in data analytics and insights, and certainly AI as well. Now, she's worked in a number of different organizations, large and small, consultancies and direct, with some really incredible results. And she's recently started as the Chief Data Officer at NHBC. Now, she's worked in diverse sectors, banking, utilities, government, education, healthcare, and has a lot of industry-specific knowledge, but has also had a really interesting, I think, route up into data as well, and perhaps a slightly less conventional than many, I'm sure you won't mind me saying. But your career journey is very rich and full, probably enough to fill a book. If you were writing the blurb on the back cover, how would you summarize that journey for people who don't know you?
Yeah, so it is right to say my route into data and technology probably isn't the same as most people. So my A levels were actually in French, English, and politics, so no STEM subjects whatsoever. And then I sort of didn't really know what I wanted to do after that. So I started various temp jobs. Then I had my daughter. That was a nice surprise. So I was a sort of teenage mum. And then again, just worked in various temp jobs and just really found I really enjoyed doing things like Excel. I just was good with technology. I could pick it up really quickly and I just really enjoyed it. And my first sort of proper tech job during that time was at Barnardo's, the children's charity. So I joined there sort of as a junior dev slash business analyst. And they were amazing actually as an employer in terms of their learning development. So they trained me in all of the Oracle technologies. So I then worked for them a little while as an Oracle developer. On one day, I was given a disc. This is showing my age now, but I was given a disc of a tool called Oracle Discoverer. So it's a very early BI and reporting tool. And really, that was my very first venture into the world of actually what became data. It wasn't really a thing then. And then it was my job to produce a lot of the stats and reporting for sort of all the work that Bernardo's did with children and families. And that was amazing. And I really, really enjoyed it. And it was really being able to deliver that value that then led me on to working in data. Following on that, I moved around various places, but then primarily I spent a good chunk of my career in the consulting space. So for companies like Fujitsu, Deloitte, Nuida, etc. So building teams and solutions and delivering across different industries, probably primarily financial services, health, utilities, and government. And then really just working on some really big, exciting projects in that space and really, really delivering value. And it's so lovely as well to build those teams. And then more recently, I've really enjoyed them building the teams and developing the next generation of data people. And now here I am in NHBC, and I'm really looking forward to making a big difference to them and being able to leverage data and technology and work with the team there to do it.
Amazing. No, it sounds so exciting. And I think something that really hit home for me there is about how you didn't do any STEM subjects at school and, didn't do the classic university route, which definitely works for a lot of people, there's no doubt. But I think it is so important that people don't rule themselves out of a data and
That's right.
technology route just because they might not have those things, which is great. A very kind of illustrious career. Every career has its mountains to climb, Looking back, what would you say has been the kind of biggest challenge or steepest mountain, I suppose, you've had to scale in your professional
Yeah.
life?
I'd say, I suppose there's two. So from I'm going to answer it from a personal perspective and then from a sort of wider data perspective. So from a personal perspective, I had, I think the one thing I've learned is to never let things like get you down, and nothing's ever like the last thing. But like, so I had a sort of startup experience that didn't go so well, and yeah, there's a lot of challenges there, and unfortunately, that company eventually went bankrupt. And at the time, then you like lost your job and you had to like find something else, but sort of pick yourself up and get back on. And actually, then it presented a really good opportunity in that I moved into Danske Bank and worked for them, where I had a brilliant career, and I loved working there. In terms of then actually working in data and the challenges that presents, I think data, a lot of people can often think about data as just technology. So we'll buy a cool tool or a new platform, and that's going to fix everything. And a lot of my job involves actually the cultural and people side of data. So it's all very well to have these shiny tools, but if no one's using them or people don't understand why it's important, then it can be very challenging. And one of the big challenges I think we have in the data space is really reaching out to the business, delivering value to the business, and encouraging that data ownership as well. So data belongs to everybody. It's not just a data team problem. And I suppose that's sort of a strategic level, that's probably where we would hit the most challenges in data projects and things like that.
Do you think you're seeing a little bit more embracing of data by businesses in most sectors at the moment? Are we making progress?
Yes, definitely. I think there is an increased understanding even in the last couple of years, and I think actually we've probably got things like ChatGPT to thank for that, that are sort of ordinary people, if you like, normal people that aren't data nerds like us, are now interested in starting to understand, I think, what data can do, what data can deliver, and that it actually can start to change the business. So we've gone beyond data as just dashboards or spreadsheets into actually data being able to run parts of the business or automate a lot of maybe boring and laborious work, freeing up people to work on more interesting things, and potentially actually increase and make revenue for businesses as well in terms of monetization. So yeah, I think it's really exploded probably in the last, I'd say, 5 years, where it's certainly now starting to drive businesses and being seen as something central instead of just the guys that build the dashboards.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, certainly from a recruitment perspective over the last 5 years, even, we're seeing a huge increase in data positions. And actually, in many IT areas at the moment, the market hasn't been incredible for job seekers. But I think we're seeing more of a sustained demand for data roles than almost any other area within technology, which hugely reflects what you're saying there.
Definitely, and I think you touched on it there as well about the range of roles that are now available in the data space. So when I would have first worked in early data, it really was data analysts and sort of techies, people writing SQL and creating dashboards. But now you've got data product, like data product owners and your data analysts, data engineers, data scientists, ML ops, AI engineers, delivery people, BA people. So there's something for everybody. We're nearly an industry now in our own right, probably at the same size as the actual technology industry as a whole. And that's what I would definitely say. It's not all just sitting in a corner writing code in terms of the roles and jobs available for people.
Definitely. And I mean, who knows where it will go? And actually, we don't know what the biggest roles in data will be in 10 years. It might be AI or machine learning, but it might be something different, which I think certainly for myself is something I find interesting.
Yeah, and I think the winners will be actually the people that really harness the value and really make sure that all the time that data teams are linking what they're trying to do to the strategic objectives of the actual business or the organisation that they're working in, that they aren't just over here doing something by themselves. So I think that's the opportunities are huge in terms of being able to unlock the data people have in their organisations.
Definitely, no, 100%. We always like to kind of throw in a little bit of reflection after talking about challenges. I know we've gone off on a little bit of a tangent there, but if you could jump in a time machine and visit past Rachael at any point, which point would you go back to and what would you share with them?
I think certainly, I mean, in my early life, I'd probably, as I said, I was a single mum at quite a young age. And I think if I was going back now to talk to be and say it's 70 and other people, it's that nothing is ever the final thing, and don't let other people's expectations of you drive what you do. That there can often be a perception of, and I think women and maybe like other communities, we maybe suffer from this a bit more. There's historically been perceptions that we've had to deal with, and to go back and say just ignore that, focus on that, and to be resilient, that no matter what happens, nothing's ever the final outcome. There's always another opportunity, and that everything in life can usually be fixed, and to never just to be resilient and to know that you can achieve and not be held back by society's expectations of what they think you can do.
When one door closes, another
Yeah.
opens. I know it's a little bit of a cliche saying, but it is
Very
true.
true.
I
Yeah.
think if you
Yeah. No,
focus
it
on that.
absolutely is true.
No, absolutely. And I mean, shifting gears a little bit, I suppose, for the girls, women, non-binary people who are looking to enter the tech world, which is something that at TRIA we're really looking to
Mhm.
support and always trying to encourage. You know, if they come across this talk and they're thinking about diving into technology or data, would you share that advice with them, or would there be anything else that you would share with those people?
Yeah, and I think sometimes this or groups we could be our own worst enemy sometimes. I mean, I was only reading this morning actually a stat on LinkedIn that 60% of men will apply for jobs that they, oh, sorry, men will only apply for jobs if they meet 60% of the criteria, whereas women and other groups will only apply, for example, if they meet
Like
every. I've
90
even
or
had my
100.
own
Yeah.
even my own daughter, I've said this to her, she's like, oh, I don't meet this one. It's like, no, go ahead and apply. So I think we need to have belief in ourselves and think, okay, I might not know those two things, but I think I can offer value. So to really try and push ourselves forwards and not get in our own way. I also think there's some really good networks and organisations out there, obviously TRIA with this type of initiative. Other people I'd call out is like people like Gemma Simpson at Diverse Talent, Drew Fivey at She Does Data, and then my G Work platform for the LGBTQ plus community. So I think it's important to join together and pool our knowledge and to really and for organisations like mine and people in my position is to then work with those networks as well. So if I'm recruiting or doing it, I'm reaching out to those organisations to ensure that we're doing the right thing. But absolutely, I think is to just that's the one message is don't think you can do it again and just have confidence in yourself and what you can do.
Amazing. And I think there are a lot of organizations as well who do offer, free upskilling and coding courses for young women or people from less
Absolutely.
represented backgrounds looking into that. So if anyone is watching this, wants to find some, please reach out to Tria, reach out to Rachel. We can point you in the right directions for
Yes,
sure.
no, definitely. And I know I live in Northern Ireland, and I know certainly in Northern Ireland, a lot of the big firms here will run academies and things for people from non-traditional backgrounds to enter the data and technology space. So certainly I'm not much of an expert in England, but certainly in Northern Ireland, I look out for those as well.
Absolutely. I'm kind of on that, I suppose, in your last role, you had the most diverse team in your
Yeah.
organization. I'm sure some of the things you've already mentioned contributed to that, but could you give us a bit of an idea of how you achieved such diversity in your team and, of course, what the results were?
Yeah, so it's something that I take really seriously in terms of like the teams that I work in. I want them to be diverse, and I think in the data space, and we'll maybe move on to that about why it is actually very important. But so we did things like we made sure we have flexible working. I ensured the language that we used in our job adverts. I mean, just as an aside, I was looking for when I before I got my job at NHBC, and I was looking for jobs, actually seeing language on one saying the candidate must be able to do this and he must be able to do that and he must be able to do the other. So it was about making sure that our language was inclusive. It was making sure that we had the diverse interview panels, even simple things like on CVs, removing names, dates, things like that. So you're really just looking at what the experience is without
Any unconscious biases? Yeah.
absolutely, so trying to strip that as much as possible. Then we did targeted outreach as well. So again, some of the networks that I mentioned before, we would advertise some stuff there. We had a brilliant graduate recruiter actually at my last organisation, and so she made sure that we targeted in the right way out to maybe universities and things like that. And then inside the organisation, then the use of things like mentors and we had the internal networks like a lot of organisations do now around neurodiversity or LGBTQ plus or ethnicity, etc. So making sure we use those networks and that mentorship idea to really foster that sense of belonging. And then just on a day-to-day in my own team, it was just about being open, sharing, welcoming all views, all opinions, and ensuring that everybody has a voice.
And, did you see, I suppose, culturally or results wise, some positive impact from having such a diverse team? Because I know, statistically, businesses with a very diverse board or diverse teams do tend to do better at whatever it is they're trying to do. Was that reflected for you?
Yes, so absolutely. It was really good to have all the different viewpoints and often to sometimes to be surprised maybe about maybe something you haven't thought about or like thought about differently. So even for an accessibility, even how you might design a dashboard, you know, that maybe somebody with neurodiversity or like disability that you're making sure it's designed in the right way, certain colours. So there's even simple things like people with colour blindness can't recognise the difference between red and green. So it's just about making sure that you use the right colours, for example, or the right when you're designing something. From an AI and machine learning perspective, obviously the more diverse your team, the less inherent bias is built into any models. I'm sure we remember the bit of scandal around the A-level results following COVID when some of that was determined by algorithm, and you know schools in certain areas did worse than others based on potential biases built into those models. So I think even more nowadays when we're moving into this AI world, that's where it's vital to have as many views and as many people represented to ensure that what we are building is fair and you know that it is without that bias and unconscious bias that
Yeah,
can be put in.
absolutely. And it's so interesting, the AI piece, actually, because I was going to talk about this a little bit. I think I see a lot of why AI might be not great for diversity. And there's a lot of really valid discussion there. But I think what I'm really interested in is surely there must be ways that AI, machine learning, and this sort of new era of data and technology could be used for good for diversity or for bringing people in or whatever it might be. And, you know, I'm not technical, Rachel, so, you know, I might not understand the actual how. But do you think there are any ways that it could improve things or that it could help us and we could use it in
Yeah,
that?
yeah, so absolutely. So I think, for example, bias detection is one. So we've mentioned the sort of manual stripping out of people's CVs, but again, there's no reason why I couldn't be going through and ensuring bias detection, say during large recruitment campaigns or things like that. I think you know, analysing gender pay gap data and flagging up any discrepancies in organisations. You could have something running to ensure you know all the time that we're taking the data and maybe comparing that to wider market data to ensure that people are paid fairly. I think we could have AI policy driven analysis. So again, running AI through policies to make sure that we're picking up anything that might be seen as unfair or discriminatory. And then even things like, again, through accessibility. So you're using adaptive platforms, for example. So if we're designing something that you can use AI to like, so, you know, subtitling or for changing how people might interact with something depending on who they are and having that adaptive nature. So now I think there's big opportunities. I know I worked on a project whilst I was at Danske Bank where we did use data to identify vulnerable customers, for example, and then to be able to improve how we worked with them as a bank using that data and machine learning through there. And also actually looking at things like fraud, pattern detection, and what we actually found that the algorithm was more accurate than the human because it wasn't subjective, so it wasn't bringing its own baggage to the thing. That it actually was more accurate than the humans. But back to the vulnerable customers, and we were able to identify, for example, things like abuse of older people, their bank accounts or things like that using, because, and you imagine the volume of data in bank accounts, it's absolutely enormous. But we were able to leverage it using those tools to actually then deliver real goods.
Amazing. That's so exciting. I mean, in terms of the future of AI, I know that you speak or contribute to a number of conferences and things like that. Could you perhaps tell me a little bit about your role in those and what you're excited about this year?
Yeah, no, definitely. So only just this morning, I was looking at Big Data London, but I've previously curated AICon here in Northern Ireland, and I've also had the great opportunity to actually present at COP26. So that's when I was at KNOS, we had built a solution around carbon measurement and the whole sustainability agenda to help organisations identify ways they could save on their CO2 emissions. And I was able to present that at COP26 to the UN and to some government ministers. So that was really exciting. And I think that's I know it's slightly a change of topic, but I think that's an area where data and AI can have a huge impact is in the environmental agenda. So I was lucky enough as well to speak at MTech on the impact of climate change on the financial services sector and how data can be leveraged to use that. So, for example, using weather data or data around subsidence to be able to then protect the bank's collateral, or to look at green investments or how that can be used. So I think that's an area that will become very important in the next 5 to 10 years, is how data and AI can improve and and help the sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it already is so important and such a key thing, with many businesses having whole sustainability or environmental departments, and building up in that way. So actually, if AI can be used to promote diversity, to improve sustainability, it isn't all doom and gloom, I would hope.
No, I like to look on AI as like it's a friend that can help us, that it's not going to be some evil overlord, hopefully, but that it is going to be something that works alongside us, and helps with our day-to-day. So if you even take things like ChatGPT, it's really something you can outsource some of the maybe more dull stuff that you want to do. You've now got a buddy sitting there that can help you, that we should be looking how we can work with it, rather than being frightened of it. I think it's like any new technology. I'm sure we were frightened of other new technologies back in the day when they came out, but but I think there's so much opportunity, and I think it's just important that those discussions carry on around the ethics and the governance of it, so that it is used for good. But yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And I suppose if there was a young person, or anyone really, who doesn't perhaps work in technology or data, or really know about AI, it's just this buzzword in the news, right? We're all on, as a recruiter, I'm on LinkedIn all the time seeing people talk about AI, and it's just something in my mind. But actually, if someone hasn't really looked at it a lot before, is there a starting point you might suggest? I mean, ChatGPT would feel like the obvious one, but are there any other particularly accessible tools or starting points or websites that you think are particularly helpful? I know I've put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah. So I would be saying use ChatGPT. Google has Bard, they're out there. Play about with them, explore them, get them. I've even get them to make funny pictures, or get them to help. You can even ask it, what should I have for dinner tonight? If this is what I've got in my fridge, is to test it out, get it to plan your next holiday and suggest an itinerary. So there is to dip your toe in. There's also which I've forgotten the name of it now. Give me a second. Image creation and recognition.
I put you on the spot. I put you on the spot with this one. So
yeah, no, that's okay. And certainly I would there's lots of writing about it and blogs and things like that. Go and have a look. But I would just play about with it and see how it can help you. A lot of organisations now will be rolling out things like Microsoft Copilot. So I think there's going to be opportunity within the organisations to have this now AI embedded, and I think it will probably become in the way that internet search did or whatever back in the day, that will eventually be using AI and people won't even realise that they're actually using it. I'm sure we've seen in Outlook, for example, the automated replies, or if you've got an iPhone, you will get Siri suggestions based on things to add to your calendar. So I think a lot of people are already using AI. They might just not realise that they are.
Exactly. Now, I know we probably need to kind of wrap up fairly soon, Rachel, so I just wanted to suppose pivot back to one of the first things that we talked about and bring it all together, which is you've done some amazing things in your career, and really from a less conventional background, and being a young single mum sounds really, really hard whilst also moving into the technology space. Do you feel that experience has helped you in your career? Have you brought things from that?
Yeah, I think it has. I think I would be pretty resilient. Anyone that knows me knows that I am a very resilient person, but also I think it's helped me then when I'm managing and developing my own teams to nearly have that wider understanding. You've had maybe slightly different experiences, so I hope that's made me more empathetic sometimes to maybe the challenges that people face. If people need flexible working or they need things, then I've been there myself. I've been a single mom. I've been there. I've got 3 kids now. Well, they're not children anymore, they're all big, but at that time is that it was great for me to have people who were flexible and help me. And so I think it's helped me understand the challenges that people may be facing in their lives, and I hope to make sure that people feel looked after in any teams that I'm managing, and giving me maybe that wider understanding of the challenges that some people can face.
Amazing. Well, I have no doubt that you'll have a huge positive impact in your new role. So congratulations again, and we'll stay tuned to see how that goes. I'm sure it'll be perfect. Thank you so much for joining us and giving your insights and allowing me to certainly put you on the spot a couple of times. We really appreciate it. If anyone watching is interested in doing an interview with myself and with Tria, we would love to chat. So do get in touch. But thank you so much, Rachel, again, and have a lovely, lovely rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Thank you.
Thank you.